Colonialism so sick. Dub CC is my click. You know we won't quit because we don't fear government. Mambo to all my African family all over the world. Habaraya Asabui, which means good morning. This is your brother Konate from the organization known as We Charge Colonialism. Today's topic is continuing the work of Brother Malcolm X or Malik Shabazz. Um, we all know that brother was bringing charges, had planned to bring charges to the UN against the United States government for its treatment of Africans in America. But what a lot of people don't know about is Brother Malcolm's Pan African work. Yes, he was a Pan African, and um, he formed an organization called the um, Organization of African American Unity. He modeled that after the Organization for African Unity, which is currently the African Union. And and in this spirit, what we are uh, attempting to do is to reach out to the African Union and actually become a member of the African Union. We are currently called the Sixth District. That's the diaspora. All Africans living outside of the continent are referred to as the Sixth Region, I believe. And because we are part of this Sixth Region, I believe that we should strive to obtain official membership as a nation without borders. So this video is a continuation of a previous video that was submitted by our founder, Attorney Cherie, um, and and she just spoke on the details of why we need to do what we need to do. I'm going to take a little different direction with it. What I want to do is concentrate today on identity. I mean, I know that all African people are not going to agree. That's why we have so many tribes to begin with. But here in the United States, where we should be one tribe, we have a serious problem with identity. And I've discussed this before in previous videos. Um, we have a lot of people who do not even call themselves African. That makes it a little difficult, um, to approach the African Union when we have so many people who believe themselves to be woke. I hate that term, but they believe to have knowledge of themselves, but then they don't identify as African. So I just want to, I know we're not going to convert everybody, and I'm not a believer in trying to persuade adult people over 30 years old to do anything. But if you're still in your 20s, maybe as an elder, I can kick a little game and appeal to your sense of logic. So I'm going to go through these groups and explain why you are African. Let's start with the Moorish Science Temple of America. Morocco is located where? In North Africa. Okay, so even if you claim to be a Moor, you still claim to be an African. That's still an African. And if you be realistic, it's no way that even if we have Moorish blood, that we kept it pure all these years. I mean, anybody knows that most African Americans are um, have Nigerian DNA. Um, used to use modern day terms at the least. And when you do DNA tests, you'll find out that you have DNA from all over the continent, north, east, south, and west. So if you are Moorish American, that means that you are African American. Next group linked together the Nation of Islam and the Nation of Gods and Earths, the NOI and the NGE. Okay, I know in your teachings you're taught that the world used to be one continent, and that continent was called Asia. And so the proper name of the black man is the Asiatic black man. And you see um, Mecca as being the holiest city. Okay, let's break that down. Outside of your teachings, there is no evidence that the world was ever called Asia. At least to my knowledge, I don't claim to know everything. But what we do know now is that based on current maps, the continent we come from is called Africa, and even the so called Middle East, what they clarify as Western Asia, actually sits on the African plate, has the same uh, type of vegetation, animals, and really Egypt and Israel uh, is only divided because of the man-made Suez Canal. They divided up Israel and Egypt by building a canal so the boats, the ships could travel through to the Red Sea without having to go all the way around the continent. But people used to walk back and forth from the area that is now known as Western Asia or the Middle East and Africa. So whether you think you are from Arabia or not, um, you are an African. Okay. Maybe what's another group? The Hebrew Israelites. I know some Hebrew Israelites identify as African, but I hear of so many who don't, who are anti-African. Okay, let's break that down. Let's say one who I already spoke. Israel is actually a part of Africa. That Suez Canal, that's an unnatural border. That Suez Canal was built by the Europeans for the purpose of just improving commercial trade. But on top of that, I mean, if you want to get biblical, they always want to quote the Bible. Um, the Hebrews were running to Egypt whenever they had any type of problems. If there was a famine, they went to Egypt. If they were, afraid of the Roman government, they went to Egypt. Jesus hid in Egypt, um, and so um, that makes these African people. And then we also know that they went in Egypt, according to the Bible, as a small family, and then they came out this huge amount of people. Well, that's not going to happen if they are just procreating with themselves. And the Bible also says that um, people outside of the region could not identify an Egyptian from a Hebrew because they looked exactly alike. So there's no way that we would have kept the gene pool pure for all of these years. Um, and therefore, if you are a Hebrew, you are African. Okay. Um, what's another group? Um, oh, you have the indigenous black people. the people that want to be Native Americans or Indians. What you have to understand is people do not grow out of the ground like flowers or trees. Um, North America was the last continent to be habitated on the planet Earth because it was under ice for a long time. Everybody that was in North America, they got there by way of migration. The Asian Native Americans, they were able to actually walk from Asia to North America because um, Russia and Alaska used to be connected. Um, and the Africans that were here, they got here by riding on ships. You do your ancestors a disservice when you don't think that they had ships and everybody in the rest of the world had ships. Um, yeah, I agree that there have been. We can argue all day about how many Africans were in the Americas prior to the slave trade, but um, we cannot argue that they were Africans. They just came here freely on their own will, but they did not grow out the ground. So if you are claiming to be indigenous to America, you're still an African. Who's left? Um, the ADOS and FBA people. Now, this might be the hardest group to convince, and it's hard for me to address this population and keep it respectful, but I will do my best. Um, what you have to understand is that in spite of you know any past grievances between our immediate ancestors and um, the ancestors um, of continental Africans who may have warred or may have participated in the slave trade or any of that, we still share common ancestry. Um, some of the people that are here, um, that were brought here, they left family in Africa. I don't know why people don't understand that. It's not like it was just one. It was just like whole families was wiped out and taken at once. No, it was like you might have a family of 20 people. That doesn't mean all 20 people were taken into slavery. Five might have been taken. 16 might have been taken. Your brother might have been taken. Um, and to Americas, your sister might have been taken to the Caribbean, your cousin might have been taken to Brazil, and everybody else was still left back in Africa. And it's weird how, black people, they always want to forgive everybody. They want to forgive Europeans for what they've done to you and continue to do to you. You want to forgive um, Asians for, slapping you yesterday. And then you go right back in their stores and shops and spend your money with them. But when it comes to forgiving your own people for what they may have done or may not have done, because we don't know the details of what happened back then. The only way to know is to actually, get in a time ship to figure it out, and that's never going to happen. So we need to understand that we are one people. Our ancestors are their ancestors, and um, and our number one problem is, in spite of this new invasion by the Chinese into Africa, our number one mutual problem is pan-Europeanism. Um, the Europeans, despite what differences they might have among each other, they can always come together for the oppression of African people, like they did with the Council of Berlin. So we have to understand that the only way to defeat pan-Europeanism is pan-Africanism. That's the only solution. We have to understand that we are strong together. We are weak divided. So I mean, this whole thing about, you know, I'm African American and I'm African Brit and I'm an African Canadian and I'm a Brazilian and I'm a Puerto Rican, I'm a Dominican and I'm a Nigerian and I'm a South African and I'm a Kenyan and I mean we have to push all that to the side. I'm not telling people not to be proud of who they are. Of course, the environment you grew up in shapes who you are. I don't deny that at all. It shapes your mentality and your culture. But at the same time, genetically, we all have the same ancestors. We come from the same people, and we do, in spite of the small differences we want to point out, we actually do have the same culture. The only differences with our culture is the differences that were caused by our oppression by European peoples. If you take the black people in Brazil, their true difference between us is that they were mixed with a different European and speak, so therefore they speak a different language. They were mixed with the Portuguese, they speak the Portuguese language. African Americans, we were mixed with the English, we speak the English language. The Afro Caribbean, Afro and African Latino population, they were mixed with the Spaniards, so they speak Spanish. But we're all the same people as far as Africans go. We're all the same people. Um, and so I just want everybody to get on board. I don't know if I address all the different um, populations of Africans in America who don't identify as African, but we need to get it together. Like the Black Panthers used to say, the man don't care what type of bag you in, what type of religious bag you in, what type of political bag you in, or any of that. It's basically um, them oppressing us, them living rich and fat while we suffer, and we will continue to suffer until we um, get it together, until we unify. I want to be practical about this. People got different religious beliefs, but I'm just going to say that it is obvious that the universe has rules. The universe has laws. Religious people want to call these commandments. And what we need to understand, the law of the universe is that unity trumps individualism. It's just like 1 plus 1 equals 2. Unity will trump individualism every single time. That is just a fact of life. We all know the lion is the king of the jungle, but we also know that if enough hyenas team up together, that lion got a problem. So, um, with that being said, Asante Sana for watching, and Kwaheri Kwasasa. Goodbye for now.